Those of you that have just joined us, welcome. It is the 12th of January. This is session number 1 for 2022. I'm very, very much looking forward to doing this session. Much less because my introduction, for those of you that join us many times, is going to be really, really short because there are no auction results. There's no new sales results for the year. Obviously, the last week or two of December is basically non-existent, and the first week or two of January. So I'm going to be really quick. We're going to jump into some questions, and we will probably be much shorter today than we usually are. Of course, you've got a lot of questions. We will keep going. But I also think being the first one back for the new year, you've had a couple of weeks off. Everyone wants to ease into it. So we figured not less for ourselves, but also for you out there that we'll try and keep more to the 30 minutes instead of the 45 minutes today. So I'm not changing this question. Those of you that have been here before will know this. Those of you that it's the first time, I want to know what's more important. Is it information or knowledge? What do you think is going to win the day? Information or knowledge? So if you've been here before, you've got to know the answer to this. If you haven't, have a think about it. Put your finger on the screen as to which you believe is right. I'll give you a couple more seconds. If you're joining with someone, have a look at them, tell them your answer. So the answer is knowledge. Now, why I say that is that information is just organized data about something, whereas knowledge is actually being able to understand, interpret, and apply that information into your current situation or the current situation or whatever it be. So it's not information in itself. It's being able to turn that information into knowledge, which is what's going to give you the power to be able to capitalize on any opportunities as they appear, or to be able to take any defensive actions or any actions that you need to do to make sure that you're capitalizing and or setting yourself up for the future. So really, really important. That's what today's session is all about. We want to unpack, unlock the value in the information that's out there so that we can help you turn it into knowledge for yourself. Also bust any myths or misconceptions that are out there. And really, it is all about you today. So if you want to get the most value from it, you've got to be involved. So that's what we're proposing to do. All right. What we're going to do and how it's going to be broken down today's session is there's going to be 3 sections. The information section, which is probably only going to be a minute or two. As I said, I don't have any auction results for you other than last year's, which I will quickly touch on just for fun. Then we'll jump into the Q&A section, the knowledge section, where we'll turn all of your questions and that information into knowledge. And then lastly, I'll wrap it up for you in terms of some new next steps and how you might move forward. All right, so focus. This is the information section. It's going to go for 2-3 minutes. So give us your undivided attention. What I'm going to do now is give you some sort of thought starters. These are some ideas as to what we've seen happening over the last week or so, and some questions and ideas that you might have around these. So if you don't already have any questions, think about these themes and throw some questions. You can start putting them in the Q&A. As I said, you'll get the most value out of being active and participating today. So for those of you that were thinking this is just going to be a relax and sitting back, that's fine, but don't expect to get the real value that everyone else is if you don't actively participate. So what have we seen happening around the country? Interest rates, always the chat at the start of a new year. If not even more apparent this year. What are they going to do? We'll delve into that. First home buyers, is 2022 the year again of first home buyers or not? Investors, is it the year of investors? What about vacancy rates? We've obviously seen a prolonged period over the last 2 years of much higher vacancy rates. Where are they going? Are they going to get back down? What do we expect? And then lastly, it's almost like there's gloom out there about where house prices are going to go this year. But what we're talking about this fading boom is still, in my mind, a boom that we should be expecting for 2022. So there's some themes, there's some ideas. Pick what's important to you, throw some questions in, jump in the Q&A and get it going because we will be there in a minute or two. And those of you that jump in first, I will answer your questions with the panel first. Okay, these results were from the last week of December. So you've probably seen them. There's not a hell of a lot to look at. It was a 63% clearance rate, so still a strong clearance rate, but we had 4,756 auctions across the country, which was a massive number. I talked about it before, 2,000 auctions in Melbourne. So really, really good end to the year, where you can see we had over 1,100 properties sold and almost 800 properties sold in Sydney and Melbourne, respectively. So huge numbers, good result there. And I think that really ended what was a stellar year. This here has a look at the transactions. We've got the final couple of weeks. So we've got week 52 of 2021. And this is just showing us the volume. I will dwell on this a little bit more than I have in the past, since I don't have real live auctions for you. Red line was 2021, blue line 2020, and the grey line 2019. You can obviously see each year has been consistently more. 2019, surprisingly, was the only year shown here in terms of the volume of transactions of sales occurring right across Australia that was the lowest, but the only year that wasn't affected by the coronavirus. So really shows you that the boom that we did have last year and towards the end of 2020 was a real boom, because you can see here, even in the last week, we had just under 7,000 sales sold in that week alone. You can see this line up here is over 8,000. We had a couple of good weeks, some strong weeks, and really sitting in this 6,000 plus band pretty much week after week after week for the entire year. So really, really good depth to the market. So those price rises that we saw were real price rises. They were strong and supported by a ton of transactions occurring. The main change year on year, of course, was Victoria. We talk about this all the time. 2020 for Victoria was not a great year, as it was impacted by coronavirus, while the rest of the countryside, not so much. And that's why you can see nationally, we're almost 40% more transactions than in the prior year, led by Victoria, and everywhere else pretty strong as well. All right, that's it. I said it'd be quick. Who's joining us this year? The good news is there are no changes to the faces at the moment. So those of you that have joined us before will know. My name is James Maitland, and I'm the General Manager here at Salvo. I've been doing this for more than 2 decades, and I've helped create more than 11,500 homes for people just like you on the line today. Salvo, for those of you that don't know, who are we? What do we do? Well, we've got a ton of different businesses and we do a lot of different things, but ultimately, everything we do is all about helping you create a home. So whether that be building you a new home, finding you a tenant, you might be renting a property office for the first time, upgrading your home, selling your home. It's all about helping you create a home. And wherever we can, we've got part of our business that can help you on that journey. So it doesn't matter whether you're a first home buyer, right through the full spectrum to a seasoned investor with multiple investment properties. Anywhere on that spectrum, we've got something for you today, and there is something within our organisation that we can assist you with and add value. I guarantee that to you. So don't tune out if you think this is not appropriate for you, because it doesn't matter where you are on that journey. We will definitely add value if you get involved today. So on the panel, joining us, Greg Arbeck, Jack Gian, and Lucas Karras. These guys will be answering all of your questions and have got a wealth of experience and knowledge. And we're all very much looking forward to hitting the first session of 2022 with a bang. All right, if you haven't done this on Zoom before, how do you get involved in your questions? The Q&A box, it's easy, it's simple. Type your question in and we will answer it. If you're feeling confident, you can raise your hand and we will put you on live. If we've got time to get to you, we will. If we don't, do try and drop your question in the Q&A, because we definitely will take a record of those at the end of this session and make sure we get back to everyone if we have missed anyone. So that is it. Let's jump into the main session. Questions. Now, before I read into your questions, give myself a moment to check. I want to throw out a question to someone on the panel first of all. I talked about it, interest rates. It's the start of a new year. It's a favourite topic. Everyone's been relaxing for 2 weeks, talking about it at family barbecues. Reserve banks, they're going up, they're going down. We're at record lows. Tell us, what's the Reserve Bank saying?
The Reserve Bank's still saying they're going to keep interest rates on hold. So we talk about the cash rate. They're still looking at that till late till 2023, 2024. However, they are predicting that we might see some increases in the rates. And if you had been listening to us over the last year, we've been begging you people to lock in if you've got a long-term interest rate thing, lock them in. If you had locked them in, you'll be smiling. If you haven't locked them in, you would have noticed that these things are already lifting already. So
Greg, why is the RBA still sticking to their 2024 position?
There's a couple of things, James. They want to see the economy grow. So they brought them right down to make sure that through the virus and all this sort of stuff. So looking at keeping the economy and getting the inflation up to the level that they want it to. Secondly, trying to keep looking at wage growth. Those are the two key things, the wage growth and the issue of trying to keep our economy moving and the inflation rate going. The reason why they're keeping their rates on hold. However, that doesn't mean the banks themselves won't raise them.
So why then do the commercial banks, and they're all predicting and forecasting that they're going to be increasing them? Some are even saying as early as the end of this year, the others next year. Yep. Why do they need to raise the rates then?
Because they can.
And if we can, we do. I assume is that basically how it goes? Is it?
It's a little bit that the Reserve Bank doesn't tell them what they have to and what they can't do. They're looking at they're a business like anything else, and they go, well, there's demand out there, whatever it is, we can raise our interest rates, and we've already seen that with regard to fixed term.
Yep.
As we've been begging people, lock it in. Those who haven't, well, the sub twos are gone. And but it's still not all gloom and doom. We're still in a very good position in terms of interest rates.
Yeah. Look, I think definitely, as you said, Greg, notwithstanding, you could have locked in, the fixed rate when we've been begging you, all of 2020 and the start of 2021 for, 1.9 something.
Yeah.
Even having an interest rate of 2.5% is a bloody good interest rate right now. I think, whilst you could have saved a bit more had you have listened, or maybe you've only just bought your home and you couldn't, that is still a record low rate. So
it's record low. We were talking 5-6% up to 7s at times. So that's really, really good still. We're still in a very good position, So yeah.
All right, Maddie, hopefully that answered your question. I sort of paraphrased that as Greg was going through. If it hasn't, just drop in something more. All right, we've got a question here from Pat. I don't know if it's Patrick, Patricia, whatever. So if you want to let me know, I will make it right. But Pat's asked here about first home buyers and saying, what's the market like for first home buyers this year? I know 2020 was a big year. 2021 was, at least the start, was a pretty big year. What's the consensus? Is this the year of the first home buyers?
For first home buyers, 2022 is probably the year for first home buyer, or probably not the year for the first home buyers.
Very well answered. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I see. All right. Do you want to break that down for Pat?
Yeah.
The pros and the cons?
Why we saying, first of all, why we saying it's not maybe the year for first home buyers? Because 2022, I think some of the people already realized this is even tougher year than the 2021. So after the last years, we experienced like more than 20% of the property price growth. So into this year, I think the average of the price is much more higher than the beginning of the last year, 2021. So I think it's
basically an affordability issue, what you're saying there.
Yes. So I think that's the major reason we were saying the 2022 is even tougher. Of course, the second one, like we're talking about the lending regulation, the lending rules for the bank, they tighten the lending rules. So which almost means is limited the borrow capacity for first home buyer. We know for the first home buyer, the major of them that they rely on the finance to borrow the money from the bank. If the lending rules change, it's gonna be like the big impact on them. So it might be not good news for them. And the third reason is in the 2021, we know we have some sort of the government incentive, for example, the home builder program, which encourage the first homeowner to buy in the property. But for now, those incentives, some of them already expire. So for first home buyer, they lose some incentive for them. Maybe not good news. And the last thing is like the Greg mentioned before, it potentially is a possible increase rise from the bank. So this is another way, might be the limited the borrow capacity for the first home buyer. So that's why we're thinking that 2022 compared with the year before will even tougher for the first home buyer.
All right. And what about the alternative view? Is there any reasons why people could be positive?
I would like to bring some good news for the first home buyer. However, the good news is we already seeing like the huge amount of the listing, the new stock coming into the market, which potentially will have the less competition. We don't like that. It doesn't like the last year, 2021. We have the limited stock and the 10 people might, for the one property. So this year we got lots of the listing here for the first home buyer. They got more option, they got more choice. Instead of also they have the less competition. That's the first good news. The second one is because we're saying that banks tending tighten the lending rules, which might slowing down the price growth. Not like crazy like last year. So this year might be like more good. And the third reason I think is because everyone predict because the job market is really good. So we have a very good the income growth, like the wage growth. So for first home buyer, this is also good news for they can have a more income. So I think the still good thing for the first home buyer to buy the property now, if you're ready to get into the market, now is still the good opportunity for them to buy.
Okay. So Chung, Tommy, Lisa, a few others were when you were giving the reasons why not, were saying what about reasons why it could be good. Hopefully Jack's covered those off.
Yeah.
So Jack, what's the advice to those guys and anyone else who's on the line today that's a first home buyer? Should they buy? Should they wait? Should they just crawl into bed and not come out for another 24 months? What do you recommend?
Of course, buying now. So it's always asking, Jack, do you think this year is good time to buy? Like we said before, every time we're saying the best time to buy is now. It's no time into the market. It's just whenever you're ready, just buying now is the best timing to buy.
All right, good advice there. So let's change gear. Investors. Maybe it's the year of first home buyers, maybe it's not. Is this the year of investors?
Well, James, despite things like interest rates will eventually rise, tighter lending rules, calculating of debt to income ratio, interest rate buffers rise by 3%, all of those things haven't really had a drastic change because there's still a lot of confidence in the market, especially with investors. They see that currently the interest rates are still good, and they see that the vacancy rates are continuing to tighten. I can give you some figures. New investment loans were up by 89.6% last year to October, with October alone seeing $9.73 billion in investment loans. Now, this despite the big hit in the rental properties, mainly due to the overseas students and migration that were all on hold due to lockdown. That is predicted to change very soon, as students are already preparing to come back into the country, as well as workers and tourists. The investors know that there are better days ahead and want to take advantage of the current market conditions. The prices are still good, and we talked about it quite a lot last year, that we saw the housing price increase so much as opposed to apartment prices, and it is ticked that this year, 2022, apartment prices will increase quite a lot. So the investors are out there, especially in apartments, looking to take advantage of the good prices that are still available.
All right, so I want to ask a question. I think I did see this earlier on, but you just touched on it before. Investors, rents, vacancy rates. It's been a tough and rough last couple of years. I know that there is, I guess, evidence out there that, if you're in one of those smaller regional towns that's only got 150 investment properties in it, that the vacancy rate is 0. And if you're one of those lucky people that owns one of those properties, then great. But, given that 70, 75, 80% maybe even of this country's investment properties are in inner city Sydney and Melbourne, where are vacancy rates right now? And are they getting better? Are they getting worse? What can we sort of expect, or what can we read from what's happened over the last 12 months?
James, the vacancy rate across the country, especially major for the Sydney and Melbourne, in the last 12 months, we were saying they keep dropping. And I think that's a good sign, like we got more tenants and people looking to rent. However, the last months of last year, 2021, the December, we've seen some increase on the vacancy rates, which might probably the people will worry about it. And according to the data showing the national's rental vacancy rate increased to 1.7% in December 2021, which is last year, last month of the 2021. And it's also the first time increase for the 12 months. Let's have a look at the Sydney and Melbourne, the biggest the city in the country. So the Sydney showing the 0.3% increase, the vacancy rate to 2.6% in December, and the Melbourne showing the 0.2% increase, which brings the vacancy rate to 3.2% in December.
So if I'm an investor out there, is this an alarm bell? Lucas just told me this year is probably a good year to buy, but if vacancy rates are going up, we're probably not going to see the pressure on rents going up then. Like what does that mean? Can I read anything into that?
No, like we always said, yes, we did. We need to look at the figures, but we will not really 100% to rely on the figures. We have to read in something behind. Let's say we compare with the 2020, the year before the 2021, the vacancy rate. The 2021, the vacancy rate is still 0.7% lower than the 2020. So which means we're still on the very, very good position. And also we having looked at the rental stock across the country. Compared with the 2020 and the 2021. So we can say the rental stock across the country has shrank dramatically over the past 12 months up to 2021. From the 54,000 rental property in December 2020, dropped down to only 37,000 in December 2021. So it's almost 14,000 rental stock has gone. It's been rented out. So which is very, very good results.
Okay. So I guess like what you're saying is we've got to look at that sort of longer term trend that sure, maybe there's a little blip in December, but across the last 12 months, that's a big chunk of vacant stock, rental homes that have now gone and are fully rented. And, you believe that's still going to continue going through that trend tracking through all of this year.
Yes. I think another thing I need to mention here is because if we only just have a look at the figures on December, and maybe the vacancy rate is just a little bit increased, but we need to remember the last month of every year is always the month, the lease changeover period, which means in this month, lots of the rental property has been vacant. But in the new year, January will start the people looking to rent, which will have the huge amount from the new year, from the January. So the prediction is since January 2022, this month, we will see the huge demand of the rental property. And then we will see of course, the rental vacancy rate will definitely drop.
Yeah. And I guess once we get that, for the next logical question, I'm sure someone's asked it, but I'm just going to ask it anyway, is that, once we get that vacancy rate down again and again and again and again, we probably then should start to see some pressure on rents and hopefully start to see some growth, them getting back to where they were a couple of years ago as well.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. And I think you boys were happily gloating this morning that just in the last few days, when you've been helping out on the rentals, that you've knocked over 7 or 8, at least 7 or 8 apartments just in the last 2 days. In fact, I think Jack was holding his hand up there and saying he did all the heavy lifting yesterday while Greg was still asleep. But so there's definitely people, the feeling from you guys being in touch with the people on the streets and on the ground is that people are out there, they're looking, they're renting, they're moving, albeit, not pushing prices up, but you're definitely getting things away. And hopefully that's this sort of overhang of the stock that's been hanging around, slowly chipping away for the last couple of years. 2022 will get rid of all of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right. It is the top of the hour. So lastly, we've talked about interest rates. We've talked about first home buyers. We've talked about investors. We've talked about vacancy. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. What about house prices? What are they going to do? Where are they going? There is even chat, if you don't read into it, that people are saying, oh my God, it's going to be a terrible year. And for most of you would think that house prices are going down. It's what we're calling a fading boom. And that is when we had massive increases of, Greg, what was it? Early 20%
20s.
plus.
It's ridiculous. When you're comparing that, everybody goes, well, they all start reaching for the Valium and things like that. And
I think you've done some of that.
I've done that as well. And they start panicking like crazy because out there, they're talking about their prices are going to plummet. When you look at it realistic, that's not the actual case. When you've gone from a massive increase in the 20%, and that cannot continue forever, which it won't. We know that. But all the economists are predicting still a steady growth between 6-7% over the next year. Now, people say, oh, yeah, but it's not 20%. However, when you look at that relative to the average growth over the last 5 years, it's actually better than what housing has done on a regular basis over time. So the prediction, it's still a boom relative to what the long-term growth has been on properties over a period of time. So relative to last year, yes, it seems like all gloom and doom, but relative to the longer-term picture, it's still a very good outcome.
And so for everyone, if you didn't catch that, that is why when Jack was talking about first home buyers, Lucas was talking about investors, and Greg's just given it to you, that notwithstanding we had a stellar year last year, and you might be saying, oh, maybe I shouldn't buy now. Prices are going up again this year. So buy now because they're not going down. Maybe sometime in the future they're going to go down. But what you've got to remember is that they keep going up and up and up and up and up and up. So yes, they might come down a bit, but it's still always, if you draw a line, it's still always going up in the long term.
Yep.
So, as Greg said, if a few years ago we were telling you we're going to have 6, 7, 8% increase in house prices, everyone would be shouting from the rooftop saying this is a boom year. And now, just because we had in the 20s last year, everyone's a bit down on it. So don't forget, just like Jack was saying before, you've got to put it in the context of where these numbers and facts and figures sit. That is still a stellar year if that is what we see in 2022. And lastly, Greg, because I know you love talking about it, let's not get political. Omicron, is that going to make any difference to house prices?
I don't think so. I think everybody's just thrown up their hands and said, let's just get on with it. So how political I am, so I'll just leave it at that.
Yes.
So.
All right. Well, let's put a pin in it there in terms of the knowledge section and the questions. Hopefully we gave you some value there. As I said, I'm trying to keep it a little bit shorter today. I don't want to overtax ourselves as we're still easing back into the working week. And obviously those of you that are joining that are back at work, I don't want you to tax yourselves too much. Those of you that are home, if you're in Melbourne, it's a 30-degree plus day, so you probably want to head to the beach or jump in the pool. So before I let you go, I just want to talk about where to from here. Now, if there was ever a time to think about planning and setting yourself up, it is the start of a new year. It's when you make all your resolutions. It's when you draw up your plans. It's when you're still feeling positive and fresh, because by the end of this month, you would have thrown it all in the bin and you'd be back to drinking 3 to 4 nights a week. But it doesn't have to be like that if you do set yourself up and you follow the path that we've talked about. So, 2021 is gone. 2022 is upon us. We're here. We're in week 2. We're almost done with week 2. You've got to be focused and thinking about what you want to do so that you can power through 2022 and smash into 2023. So whether that be buying a home, selling a home, building a home, getting another investment property, whatever it is, you need to make sure that you're setting yourself up so that you can maximize and hit those goals when you want to hit them, and if not, hit them earlier. So the way that I see it is you've got a choice. You can do nothing, right? Now, what I mean by do nothing is continue doing what you've always been doing. Now, if you're achieving everything you want to do and you don't think that there's any room for improvement, then great. I'm really, really happy for you. And I'm glad that you're hitting your goals out of the park. Don't change anything. But if you're not getting where you want to be, you're struggling, you've been trying to buy a home for year after year and you're getting nowhere, then just remember this. If you don't make a change, don't expect a different result. All right? Really, really powerful. If you're not going to make a change, you're going to continue to get the same result. So at a bare minimum, what I hope you do is think about what we've talked about. Think about that concept of information, turning it into knowledge. That knowledge is powerful and being able to set yourself up and take those actions so that you can make those changes and you can achieve those goals you want. So take that on board and go out there and do it yourself. But what I propose to you is an alternative, the Path B option, and that is do it with us. So let us help you in whatever it might be. As I said, there is a ton of different things that we do and a ton of different ways that we can help you no matter where you are in that journey, whether you're a first home buyer right through to a seasoned investor. So we'd really, really love to help you wherever we can on that journey to get there. So before I tell you how we can do that, I just want to clarify it's not for everyone, okay? You've got to actually be motivated. You've got to be confident. You've got to be prepared to actually take those actions. So there's no point in setting yourself up and then saying, I'll do that later. Maybe it's not quite right. You've got to be decisive. You've got to actually take those actions. You've got to actually want to be able to increase that knowledge so you can go out there and do it yourself. And lastly, you've got to be prepared to actually do the work. Not a lot of work you've got to do, but you do need to just think about it. Make sure you get yourself planned and set up and ready to go so that you are prepared when those opportunities present themselves to grab them with both hands and lasso them and take them to the bank. All right, so how can we help you? Well, based on the limited information that we know about you from this session, I think the next best logical step and the smallest commitment I can possibly ask from you while still guaranteeing you a result is that we made up one-on-one. So what I've done is I've set aside time in everyone's diaries over the next week, specifically just for these catch-ups. So they won't book out for any other reason, but they do tend to book out relatively quickly. So do make sure you don't procrastinate and jump in and grab one of these sessions. They're about 15 to 20 minutes. And really the idea here is just to get to know a little bit more about you, understand where you are on that journey, what your successes have been, perhaps what some of your failures or struggles have been in the past. And then we can identify some quick wins for you straight away that you can take away from that meeting that you can go and implement immediately to try and get yourself onto that path you're looking for, as well as some ideas as to how we might be able to work together and help you in the more medium to long-term strategy. So, it doesn't cost you a thing other than 15 to 20 minutes of your time. It doesn't have to be in person. Obviously, we'd love to see you, take you out for a coffee. But if you're not here in Melbourne or you're a little bit concerned, then, feel free. We can do it over Zoom. We can do it over WhatsApp. We can do it over FaceTime, WeChat, whatever method you prefer. We really just want to get to know a little bit more about you so we can help sort of prescribe the best way that we think you can move forward to achieve those goals. And ideally, we will be able to help you on that journey. If we can't, we'll be upfront and let you know and give you some suggestions as to where you might be able to get some better help. So if that sounds like something you want to do, then it's really, really simple. You've got 3 ways you can do it. Jump in the chat if you're here live on Zoom and there's a link. When you logged into Zoom, your web browser should have redirected you to book one of those meetings. And lastly, I'll send you a follow-up email after this session with that booking link in case you didn't find any of those others or you're unsure and you don't have your diary with you. But just remember, they book out quick. So do make sure you jump in and grab one of those sessions before they all go. All right. I want to just tell you before I let you go about the last holiday I went on. And it wasn't at Christmas time because like a lot of you, it all became a little bit too hard with testing, not testing. Can we go here? Can't we go there? That I threw my hands up and said, I can't follow these rules. We stayed at home. So the last time I got away was in July last year. I went up to Hamilton Island for a few nights, and it was a really, really great holiday, and it was great to get away, particularly in the cold winters here in Melbourne, as well as it was great to get away for a few days just before we had that long 3-4 month lockdown at the end of last year. But when I got there, my daughter said to me, my oldest daughter, Isabella, that you can see here, she said to me, Dad, I'd love to walk up to the top of that mountain there and watch the sunrise. Can we do that tomorrow morning? So, of course, I said, no worries, love to, that'd be great. And I was looking forward to it. She was pumped and excited. And we went to bed that night. I quickly checked what time does the sun rise. And of course, it was at the crack of dawn, hence why it was the sunrise, at 4:45 a.m. So I set my alarm and went to bed. Now, I did what I know all of you on the line today have done. You might have even done it this morning, or you would have definitely done it this week. When that annoying alarm goes off on your phone, what do? I hit the snooze button, immediately rolled over. 8 minutes later, it went off again. I looked, no one was awake. It looked dark. I didn't really feel like getting up. It was a holiday. I said, we can do it tomorrow. We can do it another time. And I hit stop and I rolled over and I tried to go back to sleep. But something was nagging at me, and it was that thing about I've got to actually take that action. So a couple of minutes later, I jumped up, I woke Isabella up, we got dressed, we quickly ran to the top of the mountain, and we were able to capture this amazing photo. You probably can't quite see it through the camera, but the joy on her face is something that I'll never, ever forget. And it was a great moment that she and I did together. And I know that she will always remember that. And for those of you that have got kids, you'll know that they're only young for a very, very short period of time. And it's great to have moments like these that you can share and enjoy before they get to the stage that Isabella is at now, where she says, Dad, you're embarrassing, and drop me off around the corner. So it was a really, really great time, but it almost didn't happen. And I'm sure that everyone has experienced that at some point in their life. But what you've got to do is you've got to think about it, and you've got to be prepared to actually take the action, get up, jump out of bed, don't snooze the alarm if you want to get the results. You want to capture a special moment like this. You want to have those memories. You've got to be like me. You've got to be prepared to say, no, I am going to jump up. I'm going to grab this opportunity with both hands, and I'm going to, take it on, and I'm going to get it done so that I get the memories, I get the results. So for those of you out there that haven't yet booked one of those sessions, and you are looking to buy a new home, or you're looking to change, or whatever it might be, or just looking for some help with your existing investment properties, do not procrastinate any longer. Stop hitting snooze on your phone alarm. Jump on, book one of those sessions, because if you do, I guarantee it is the smallest possible commitment you can make and still expect to get a realistic opportunity to have a result. As I said, it doesn't take a lot of your time, and we will give you some things that you can take away immediately to put into place to get some of those results. So jump on, book one of your sessions, and I guarantee that you will be hitting the ground running 10 times faster than if you didn't for 2022. So that is it for the first session. It's just gone after about 12 minutes past 3. So thank you very much for everyone sticking around. It was great to be back. I really enjoyed it, and I think everyone on the panel enjoyed to be back here. As I said, we will be slowly over the next few weeks trying a few different formats, a few different speakers, a few different themes. We will try to let you know in advance, but we do apologise. It will be clunky. It will be all over the shop. We're really just trying to implement some of the feedback that we've got from everyone that was kind enough to give it to us over the last couple of months of last year as to what they wanted to see more of and what they wanted to see less of. And we will try to get all of that happening so that we can deliver the best possible experience and continue to deliver value for all of you out there. So once again, from me and everyone on the panel, thank you very much for your time today. And I hope you have a good rest of the day. I hope for those of you that are in the sunny Melbourne or Sydney, you get down to the beach or jump into your pool and enjoy yourself. I know that's what I will be doing later today. So thank you and have a good day. And we look forward to seeing all of you next week or sometime over the next couple of months.